sports, and even top-rated daytime dramas, including, get this, General Hospital and Another World. She earned 3 Emmy Awards and a Directors Guild of America Award. Wow. Along with What's Going On in Today. Her creative life and spiritual practice walk together in a life collaboration where divine wisdom informs every story she tells, informs us. Tonight we're going to talk about the Akashic Records, soul contracts, karma, and how to live every day through the lens of your higher self. If you're watching live, you can send your questions in right now in the chat, and you can also email us at thesoulreportlive@gmail.com. This is a new feature to the show now. You can ask Mary direct questions or myself later on in the show, thesoulreportlive@gmail.com. We're going to read them right here live on air. So let's welcome to the Soul Report Live, the amazing and talented Mary Madeiras. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Douglas. It's really good to be here. Really.
Well, you're a talented person, and this is not your first book, might add. You have several books out there, I guess. How many was it that you have written now?
No,
Two,
actually, this is my
two,
first
three,
book.
four, five. Oh, I'm looking into the Akashic
Well,
Records. That's what I'm doing, looking backwards. Anyway,
well, yes,
okay,
there are more on the shelf, but this one has just been published.
there we go. So,
Yes.
you said the Akashic Records, the Akashic Way, rather. Uh, for people just joining us, we have novice people, we have people who are expert. Can you give us off the top, what is the Akashic Records?
Sure. So the Akashic Records are a quantum divine realm, uh, quantum field, and the records contain um, everything that every soul has ever thought, said, experienced, and done on our planet from the beginning of time. So what happens is when the idea is this akash, which means it's a Sanskrit word, which means that from which all things are formed. It's as if in the beginning of time there was this blank quantum field. And as human beings, as humanity, as all living essences move about, there is an imprint, a soul imprint that happens into that field, that goes into that field. So throughout the beginning, since the beginning of time, we have the ability to actually access our own journey, our own soul's imprint, so to speak, for every incarnation. The idea being that as a soul, we choose to come here for various reasons, and each lifetime, the soul reincarnates, and that's why it's all in the records. So that's why sometimes when we access our records, we're given information about past lives because our soul has whatever past life that was is imprinted in the records. So it's quantum, it's experiential, and that's kind of what I know the records. That's my experience with the records.
Well, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody says, I wonder what I was in my past life. And was I a king, as a queen? Did I, conquer the world? And when people ask me, I say, well, no, actually, you were the fellow that used to shine General George Washington's boots just before he got on the horse. That was your job. And they go, what? You know, so really, I'm joking a little bit about that, but there is just the experiences of life, and it doesn't matter. I guess everybody gets to be mighty at one time, and they get to be humble at others, and they get to be good and bad and whatever. But when you're dealing with people and helping them to discover this way, whether it's in work, relationships, or stress, can you sort of, in your book, I'm sure you describe it more exactly. How can you help them? How can they get benefit out of examining the Akashic records?
Well, since it is divine and it is a representation, let's say, of source. It actually is source, God, universe, whatever we want to call it, creator. Um, what happens for people is when they come to their records, usually they're coming because very common questions. I don't know what I'm here to do. I'm confused. I feel stuck. Um, I don't know why I can't manifest the things that I want. It's all the usual human life questions. what happens when we go into the records, or when I open the records with the permission of the person, I hear blocks of thought that are not mine. And so what happens is there are light energies that oversee each one of our Akashic records, okay? And they're not beings, they're energies, but they're identifiable. At least they are for me. And I get blocks of thought that are questions for the client. So the client will come in and say, I'm just stuck. I'm so unhappy in my life. I just can't figure it out. And then what proceeds to happen is there will be questions coming from their own records, from the divine keepers, we'll say,
Hmm.
and I hear those thoughts that are not mine. And as they ask the questions, something opens up. Now, I also think that what is going on here is not just me, practitioner, doing something, or even just the client who is asking from their own higher self for clarity. I think that is what I've witnessed is there is a divinity, there is a divine essence that I like to say just washes over the reading. It's very subtle, and but I can feel it. It's a higher vibrational subtlety that all of a sudden things start opening up, and the person will begin to talk more about themselves. And what starts to happen is it triggers 100% of the time for me when I work in the records, it triggers a remembering on a deep soul level of who we are and why we're here. Now it sounds like a really broad statement, but it reflects it it how do I say reflects itself, but it happens through the discussion of things in a person's life. They may have trauma, things when they were a child, or maybe they do know about a past life. And sometimes past lives will be shown to me if it pertains to what that person is needing and wanting from that particular time and that session in their records. So that's just how it happens. It's just this flow of this person. And when I laugh about this because they thank me, and I say, please thank yourself because you just had a conversation with the divine higher aspect of you. You just talked with you, basically. It's
Well,
very beautiful, very beautiful.
that makes good sense. I mean, people go to get regressed, and find out what they were like when they were babies and stuff, and
Yeah.
how something happened in their childhood. So why not sort of be regressed back beyond entering in here and go to the post existence and then go to other situations or experiences and sort of
Yes.
remember what's going on. And you kind of bring that on. I guess when you get that synergy, it has to be the two of you. It happens as you just said. There's kind of like this flow that happens. You get into the moment, and I guess they trust you. They relax, and you make sense, right? I mean, you're not talking about
Yes. Yes.
some. You're not talking about a cosmic courtroom. It's keeping score of good or bad, whether they're going to be punished or rewarded. Is that right?
It's not, that is true. The other thing that I have noticed also 100% of the time is that people are drawn to their records. It's so fascinating to me how people come to me. I don't, run around marketing it. Yes, I have a book and I want people to know about the records, but my role, I've come to learn my role through my own work and my own records, which is to open up people to their greatness, to their light as much as possible utilizing this particular tool, which is the Akashic Records, or are the Akashic Records. So people are drawn to their own records. Yeah, I never go and like tell people you need a reading or anything like that. It's amazing to me. And I think there's so much mystery, beautiful mystery to and there are things we cannot answer. And I actually love that about divine and divinity and what is really out there, right? In terms of God and source and creator. Love, we know, is a given. And, the records refer to the field that the records are in as the all that isness of everything. It's where everything exists all at once and there's no time. So it's just everything is there and everything is okay all the time. That's the other thing that sometimes people don't want to hear. Oh, everything's okay. Yeah, well, the world is falling apart. Well, there are things happening in the world, and we can peel those apart and look. But when we look through the lens of the records, the clarity and wisdom that is shed on these things that are happening and the perspectives of humanity throughout humanity, what gets the light that comes through is pretty amazing. It just creates this sort of alignment, I'll say. And when we're aligned, the world will become more aligned. Like, duh, right?
Yeah. Well, my mentor and teacher and example, Ross Peterson, once told me something that suits what you're just saying now, and that was because I was worried. I was getting people with very serious situations, and I wondered, as a lack of faith, can I find the answer? Can I help them? Is there somebody I can't help? Those kind of questions. When you're a
Yes.
neophyte, it's natural to have those questions. And he's told me this. He said, look, you're in the spiritual world. That means there's an awareness spiritually, telepathy, precognition, premonition, all these soul travel and things like that. He said, so the only people that come to you are the ones that you can help. If you can't help them, they're not going to show up at your door.
Right.
Oh, that took a big weight off me, like crazy. So, can you give us?
Yes,
Can you give us? I'm assuming you agree with that,
I
because
do.
what you're describing is that when people come to you and you get in that intimate setting between you and them, I'm assuming you do one at a time. Do you ever do
Yeah.
groups of people, or anything like that?
No, I haven't, although I've
One at a
done,
time.
I can open the records of organizations with the key people, CEOs and board members there.
Wow.
So, yes, that's just really interesting because it's an essence. Everything is essence. It exists as essence. So,
So is it
that's,
that kind of group therapy? The whole board's there when you're doing this?
well, I'm really opening the record of the company. So the
Yeah,
company
yeah,
itself has a record and it's etched in its creation. It was created in a certain way
of
or
course.
intention, sole intention, I guess. But no, I haven't done, I'm usually doing one-on-one. Um, I haven't been led yet to be teaching people how to open the records. And I think it's because I am really here to work with people. Now I can be in rooms and really speak about the records and I'm moving into that space more because what happens when I'm one on one is just, you probably have this. It's just so amazing. It's just amazing. I come away more expanded. I witness expansion, and I keep feeling like this nudge from divine itself or from my own records. Keep doing this and writing. I keep hearing writing, write, keep writing. So right now, that's what I'm up to.
Yeah, the book is called The Akashic Way. Got an appropriate title. Uh,
Yes,
Groundbreaking new book that's revealing radical um,
concepts.
perspectives for humanity, its future, and divine wisdom. Very good.
Well, so here's what happened. I can rewind a little bit with this. Like when I was studying the Akashic Records, I studied at the through the Institute of Akashic Studies out of Chicago by multi-author Linda Howe. And as we were, continually opening our own records, because that's really what it was about. We was about healing our own wounds because I don't want to be in a reading with someone and then all of a sudden I have something that's not cleared out or in alignment, and then I'm not going to be really good for that reading. So anyway, in my own readings, my records kept telling me, "You're Mary," because I would hear it and I'd be at my computer. You're a writer, and I would say, like I was arguing with my own records. I would say, "No, I'm not. I'm a director." Because I was at that time, I was working as a director at that time. No, 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 your records show you a writer. And when you begin writing, it will be so easy that you will not even believe it, and we will be by your side. So, so I kind of went, okay, whatever, but I didn't really lean into it. I resisted it a little bit. And so my journey in my own records was something that I wanted to bring into this book so that it would make others feel that it's not this sort of lofty thing that we can't get to and you have to be a guru to do it. It's like here I was, I mean, anyone who reads this will see I work through my own, like my human stuff in my records. But here's the thing that happened as I was asking things. I mean, really, like, I don't, my body, my weight, I'm having struggles with this job, all these things I brought into the records in these readings. But what always happened was the divine itself would impart bigger messages through my own experience about humanity, about love. And that's where these other concepts came out. They were connected up with my readings. So I tried, when I was thinking of writing this book, I tried to separate the two and I couldn't. I just heard, no, leave your journey. So it's your journey, which is good. But some of the radical ideas, like they talk about immortality, like literally, not that the soul keeps going. We know that already. I think a lot of us have accepted that, but that we literally, as human beings, can live healthily as long as we want. We have the choice. And that one's gonna, like, I'm just waiting for some people to, to ask me about that one. But when I hear these things, I resonate. So it's truth. I feel it's truth. And
Well,
I, you,
I'll ask you about that one, Mary.
well,
That's my
you know,
job.
when you tap into something, and I know I'm sure this is so true for you in your work through the years. It's like when you are tapping into something or something comes to you, you know it to be true. You don't question it. You don't try and pick it apart. There are some things that just come in, and you're like, I know that. And that's what happens for me a lot. And so the immortality, I have felt since I for many years that maybe we really do have the ability to live as long as we want. And there are sacred texts that show that. Wasn't Moses in his hundreds, 700 or 800 or whatever? So
Well, I think it has something to do with living in the desert, abstaining from everything,
yes, maybe.
praying 24 hours a day. It's got something
Yes.
along those ways that most of us aren't really, you know, wanting to do. But you're
And
right.
being in joy, 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 joy.
Yeah, I think that's how we can extend ourselves, avoid sickness. The number one thing that I'm just learning in this late time of my life is how to keep your peace. If you can keep your peace, then everything else you're doing right.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard in this world we live in, and I have a lesson at the end of the show, the last part of the show, about being our brother's keeper and the Good Samaritan and the metaphysical aspects of that. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But keeping your peace is longevity. I I believe it. I didn't know what it was like, and now I'm beginning to learn about how disciplined it takes to keep your peace. So
Mm.
we'll explore that one some more. But just before we go to a break, you were talking about that lovely book of yours. Can you hold it up and let everybody have a look at the cover?
Okay, so this is it, the Akashic Way. But see, I don't know if I'm cut off here, but
No,
there it
you're
is.
fine. That's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So it's
fine.
the Akashic Way. And actually, my cousin is a painter, and she painted the painting that is on the cover.
That's very wonderful.
Yeah,
It's a
it's really a
program,
beautiful
wow,
feeling.
multi-dimensional kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where can people get this brand new book that you're launching?
Um, it's on Amazon, so that's where they can get it, and maybe through my website. I have a link on my website to go to Amazon. So really, Amazon.
And
Hmm.
your website is theakashicway.com, no doubt.
TheAkashicWay.com.
Yeah,
Correct.
I was psychic and I read it on the pad. But perfect sense, theakashicway.com, so people can go there. Listen, we'll give Oz a bit of a heads up here. One question, not to name names or anything, but you've gone from directing TV, major TV, to opening up the Soul Records. So, was there any turning point that you can bring to these two words, media and spirit, together?
Any person? Do you?
Oh, yeah, a person or, some a turning point where you've met some person that's went from the media world maybe to the spiritual world like yourself or so without
Yeah,
naming.
actually, yes, there was one person. Um,
Okay.
yes. Do you want me to answer that now? I didn't know if we were
Now
taking a
we're,
break.
we're going to answer this and then Oz is getting
Okay.
this
Um,
stuff all set up for a break.
Yeah, it was an executive producer that I was working with on a show, and she was, I think she herself was moving into the spiritual realm of work, and she had been a vice president at NBC, so she came from that world, and she on her when the network had fired her, and there was we no one could figure out why, but whatever. On my goodbye dinner, at my goodbye dinner to her, I was so upset because she really saw me. She handed me these tapes, and it was Abraham Hicks, and they were little cassettes. And she said, "I don't know if this you're going to resonate with this, but this is really important to me. I've been listening to them, but don't feel obligated, whatever." And I listened to it on the way home, and my whole world shifted. It opened up, and their pure positive consciousness. So it wasn't necessarily the Akashic Records, but it was this like not permission slip, but a green light, like to be more engaged in this. And I went to Abraham workshops, East West Coast, and then it just was more of that, right? More of that, like Joe Dispenza and Eckhart Tolle, and the usual suspects, Dr. Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, and so I just inhaled all of that. And it was almost like that was maybe my divine prep. I don't know, because it was just raising my vibration, and then boom, there were the records. So that's how it worked. But it was her. She started it.
The cosmic way, right? Unlocking the
Yes.
lock. Here we go. Okay, we're going to take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back. If you want to ask Mary in the chat questions, now's the time to do it. Oz will be able to let us know the questions. Again, you want to ask directly, you're not too familiar with chat, send us an email, thesoulreportlive@gmail.com. Again, thesoulreportlive@gmail.com. And Oz will take your question. He'll ask right on the show here when we come back from this short break. We'll be right back.
Are you searching for clarity, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of the spiritual world around you? Meet Douglas James Cottrell, PhD, a visionary author and teacher who's helped countless people transform their lives. His books are a gateway to profound insights, offering guidance, inspiration, and the tools you need to unlock your full potential. From unlocking your intuition to discovering spiritual truths, Douglas's books are your trusted companions on the path to personal growth. Don't wait. Start your journey today. Visit his website douglasjamescottrell.com to explore and purchase his life-changing work. Your next breakthrough is just a page away.
Well, welcome back, Mary. As everybody has these breakthroughs in life, looking back, you can kind of see the footprint leading you up to that moment. But when it's in front of you, it's like mesmerizing. What happened? I had a similar experience myself when somebody handed me a book about Edgar Cayce. So why? Why at that exact moment when you're ready for it? It's amazing how the universe works.
Well, I actually think that it's always there. It's there to begin with. And I think I guess, so I'll give you an example. When I was little, I remembered I grew up with it was a rough family, a lot of hatred, a lot of racism, stuff like that, and drinking and whatever. I was going to say the usual, because I hear that story over and over
I
again.
I was just going to say that that's the cosmic path.
Yeah,
It's absolutely right.
cosmic fat. And anyway, so I grew up going to Catholic school, and I had these wonderful nuns who I thank in my book, and they just saved my life. They saw me. They were peaceful. They were of peace. They were not. They were not. I'm sorry to use this word, but they weren't holy rollers. They weren't banging us over the head with religion. It just wasn't that way. They were really open, caring women, and so when I would go to church, I had this sensation in church when I was very little. I probably was in second grade. I would feel, and then the masses were said in Latin when I was little. And when the music played, when the organ played, I something happened for me. But I didn't, when we're little, we don't know what it is. But I knew that I loved being in church. Well, fast forward to me learning that I was a cloistered nun in a past life.
Ah,
And also, I went on to college to study music. I majored in music in college, and I was studying Gregorian chant. I was one of maybe four people in a class that who studies Gregorian chant. I didn't know anyone who did, but I was drawn to it. So I think we have it. We have that. For me, it was connection to God. I think I always had a connection to God, and not in a religious way. It was always in like the things about the Catholic Church that I saw, like we're all sinners, whatever. I just didn't resonate with it. I wasn't a rebel about it, but I was quietly going to myself, wow, when I grow up, I'm going to open up and look at a lot more because I know there's a lot more. So you know it. And I think when we go to our records, we realize whatever the thing, there's nothing new. One time a client said to me, a prominent psychiatrist, and she said, there's nothing you're telling me that I don't already know. And I waited for what the records would say, and they went, yes, that's right. There isn't anything we don't know. So there may be human pivotal points, and there were for me, but I can say I had that spiritual technology, whatever we want to call it, in me already. And then what happens is we forget. I don't, this is the thing I know you must speak about is that we come in as balls of light, pure positive consciousness, balls of divinity. We come in and then we forget. And I think my hunch is that we forget because if we really knew where we were coming from, we would just turn around and go right back. Because like this is a challenging planet. I'll say that. So then we forget, and I think that's by design. And then we begin to remember again, and we come back to why we were here, what we chose to do, and it's a nice blend that, and it unfolds, which I think is nice.
well, I going to pick up on what you said. You went back with the nuns who were very kind and peaceful, and you felt at home, and they recognized you as one of them. I have in my mind thinking that they were trying to prepare you to come in to be a nun with them in the future, but they recognized the quality that you were exhibiting as a child. And now
Yes.
coming through this rough neighborhood, so to speak, and not becoming bitter or a maniac or doing bad stuff yourself, rebelling, if you will. You were right at home. And then you went to study the chanting. Why? Because you had done it before and you loved it before, possibly. So you were at home. And then, of course, karma being karma, there's the other side. So you have to go through as much as you were cloistered and protected in the church. Okay, Mary, this time, let's go out in the world and find out what it's like out there in the bad neighborhoods, but still
Mhm.
remembering the spiritual reinforcement or foundation. So,
Yes.
when you go out there and you find things you like, I mean, how many times have we heard that somebody's mechanically inclined? He's like 10 years old and he can, fix an engine or a car. Well, he's had a lifetime or two or three. The
Exactly.
famous Edgar Casey had a story about his reincarnation. Sorry, he was a riverboat gambler on the Mississippi. He was a gunslinger, carousing, gambler, and he loved the life. He loved it so much that he went back a second time to have two lives, one after the other, concurrent as a riverboat gambler, gun, whatever. And that comes from his own examination of the records. When I first heard that, I thought, well, that makes perfect sense. If you really
Mm-hmm.
had a good time, you got all the time in eternity, why not go back? So anyway, getting to that point, it's like it makes perfect sense that you would go back to the church, even though the churchery of it, the people in the religious temples, churches, whatever, sometimes they're not so nice. They hear the words, but they don't live the words, and so they discourage people or they block the path of a lot of people who you've talked to them. They have bad memories of being in church or whatever or temple,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but that doesn't stop the spirituality. And as they move forward, there's still, that something inside. What do you think of people who say, I'm an atheist and I don't believe a thing you're selling? What do you say?
I actually have had that conversation
I'm sure
before.
you have. What do you
Well,
say?
one thing I say to people is I'm not here to sell the divine. But you know what you can do is you can actually say to people, somebody who's an atheist, you can use science. You can begin because now science and spirituality are shaking hands. We know that, and so like the quantum field can be measured. There's a quantum field. Do we see it? No, no, we can't see it. I don't see it. Do we see air? No, but we know it's there. It can be measured. So, you know, that's the conversations with atheists go in that direction. The other thing I always ask an atheist is like, look at how things happen that can't be explained that are just amazing on this planet because there are a lot. Is
You know,
that just random? You know, I enjoy talking with people like that because it's like, tell me, is that random? All of these ways that species live and life unfolds and the plant our Gaia is just amazing and measurable, right? And so there are mysteries still. And so why would an atheist believe in, well, that happened because of that? And then you say to them, yeah, but no one's proved that. So why do you believe that? So it's it's it almost doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't matter if somebody doesn't believe in a God. I think we have to believe in each other. And the secret is that means you're believing in God because we're all of that. So I think it comes down to like semantics and maybe wording or whatever, but like just be kind. I say that all the time to people, like just be kind.
yeah, that's what it's all about. I liken it this way. It's like when somebody comes up and says, so we got to have that talk, Dad. What's all this talk about the birds and the bees? That's what an atheist is asking because they know there's something. They don't know what it is. They want it. And they kind of like, so tell me about the birds and the bees. And okay, come on, sit down, son or daughter. If I got a story for you, you're not going to believe it, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to give you the wherewithal. And so people who are atheists, I think they come to you, Mary, and they say, because you're a spiritual person, you've been in a church in another lifetime, and you have the connection now to talk about the practical spirituality is what I call it. And so they
Mm-hmm.
sit down and they're really saying, Mary, prove it to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not if the bottom line on atheist people are atheists. If you're an atheist, why are you so concerned about trying to convince me that I'm wrong about believing? If you're really an atheist, it's kind of like you're just wasting your time.
You wouldn't care, right? You wouldn't even care to have the conversation. I
That's right.
agree.
So
That's so true.
because
Yeah.
they asked, that's when you could say, well, it's like the birds and the bees. You
Well,
know, it's something
another
wonderful. I'm going to tell you about it.
Another thought about the atheist or people like that are like, what about people who have had near death experiences?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Tell me about that. Yeah.
I mean, and they're coming more and more. Are people? I think it's that more and more people are talking about it, and they're saying the same things. They're saying they saw loved ones. How can somebody say they saw? How can it not be real when someone says, I saw the doctor and heard the conversations and I saw myself on the table and you did this and you did that? I mean, what is the atheist going to say to that? Well, oh, well, that's psychology? I mean, no, it can't be psychology.
Well, it doesn't matter what you say. The atheist is never ever going to admit in front of you because they're human, they're square-headed, they're block-headed. They're never going to admit, look, see the sky, it's blue, right? No, it's not, it's green, or it's
Mm-hmm.
white, or they're never going to admit in front. But that seed you put in their mind, you see them in 6 months later, they're talking the talk, they're walking the walk, and they're Bible thumping, and now they're on the other end of that argument. They want to convince everybody that there is a God, you know? So,
That happens a lot. That's true.
but
That's
more and more
true.
people are coming forward with these near-death experiences, near physical death experiences. More and more people are coming forward with dreams and visions because this is the time.
Yeah.
This is the spiritual evolution taking place, the renovation of the whole world's taking place. We're not going to like it. And there's going to be huge losses of life. There's going to be huge changes in the planet. The volcanic ash in the air is a big threat. Nobody's talking about it. The weather
Mm-hmm.
patterns are changing. I have my book called The New Earth. It's written a few years ago, 85% of predictions have come true now. Some are still waiting. And it's going through this renovation time. So
Yeah.
when you are there helping people, Mary, and they come in and they say, as you said earlier, I'm lost. I can't find my way. I'm stuck. Well, what you're doing is say, just a minute, and you open the vault door and you say, see all these books in the library over here?
Hmm.
Who you were. And we're going to help find out, find the key that's going to get you to where you want to go.
And who you are right now, because there is no time. So whatever was happening in, even when you find out like that you did awful things in a past life, I love when we look through the lens again of the records. I can give an example. I think it's in my book. The one reading of my own that I was doing, they said to me, "You were the word scorn came up," and they said, "Look up the word scorn," and I did, and I think it's the whatever I wrote it in there, and they basically said you had a past life where you were scorned and you scorned others. You did really bad things. Well, that was tough. That was tough to hear because I'm so not that today. But then what they invite us to do all the time with these kinds of pasts and even our childhoods that might be traumatic is to look at the energy around them, the energy of scorn, the energy of being scorned. Because what I have been shown is that energy isn't positive or negative, it's just energy. And so if we look at energy, so what happens for me today is I can recognize scorn before it happens. I'll just say that. And it's not about being a psychic or anything. I just have that because I am familiar with the energy of scorn. And even one of my brothers used to tease people. And then I would tease people when I was little. Well, not very little, but when I was like in high school, being with friends and stuff. And I was really like teasing people badly. And not bullying, but teasing. And that was the scorn energy. It has to do with scorn. Not a word that we usually use, not a word that I've ever used. And so I was able to identify that energy, and then that becomes an asset for me in my life now with what you were saying about this planet and what is happening. We have a lot of people that are just set at they're just destined to make things not easy. I'm just going to say it that way.
Yeah.
And so what are we going to do about it? We need to be very courageous right now, and we have to, and so having those kinds of pasts actually become assets because we're familiar with it. We're familiar with the fight. We're familiar with what it's like to be shut down or what it's like to shut someone down, right? And those assets can come in really handy right now on this planet because we got a lot of people that are wearing masks, and I agree with you. This is a massive revolution, or it's like a revolution evolution of this planet and humanity itself. And you're right. A lot of people are going to leave. They have been already because of this sort of the consciousness is raising, is what I get, and it's going to continue to raise. And if you don't want to go with it, bye. It's kind of
Oh,
what I
yeah.
get,
Yeah.
right?
Karma, uh, if we understand it as an equalizer, you
Mm,
probably have discussed this with people. Basically, the karma that you have, you owe to yourself. And so the
mm-hmm.
experience you have are the consequences of what you've done before. As you were saying, you learned this bad habit in the family, you were scorning people, but also that happened to you in a previous time, so you became super sensitive of it. And there's no greater teacher, you might agree, is that when you find out you're doing something that you absolutely despise,
Yes,
and you go
that's
like,
right.
moi? You know,
Yes,
oh my God, and then the person tries to make amends. And as you're sensitive, and you're probably in your time of learning, now you're very sensitive when you see things happen, especially when people come to you and they're having these difficulties. Well, you're right there for them. You're there to help them, not to scorn them and chase them away, but to say, come
right.
on, man, I can help you. So
Yes.
We have a little time left in the interview here, so show us that book again. It's called the
The
Account.
Akashic Way, and it's living through the lens of the Akashic Records. We'll do it this way. Um, so that's it, the Akashic Way. And the title it was birthed because I believe that if we live life through this lens, we access the greater part of ourselves, that light, that divinity, that light, that the source that we are. And that's been working for me. My life really began to change. It really changed when I began working in the Akashic Records. So I'm a living example of it. I have really good things happening, and my writing got better. I mean, a screenplay that I co-wrote has been just recently, we think of, it's been greenlit by a distribution company, and so it involves the story of Mary Magdalene, but it's a modern storyline like the Da Vinci Code, and it was kind of not, well, I'll just say it wasn't greenlit for 5 or 6 years. I think we wrote it like 6 years ago. But things are moving, and I was able to write a certain way because of my working in the Akashic Records and being so familiar with how to access my own assets and abilities and let them come out and feel good about them. Because I think a lot of us have been trained out of that,
Oh,
right?
sure. You know, how, you know, I often tell people when they complain about their parents or having difficulties or teachers at school, and I intuitively say, well, you were smarter than your teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Look for a moment, their eyes look up at the 10 o'clock and they go, yeah. Now, we're not talking about stupid teachers. We're talking about teachers that weren't wise. They
Right.
didn't know. They were educated. But the child is wise and it knew. But and so when you meet teachers and or parents that the child is smarter than they are, it's a struggle because the foolish parent or the foolish teacher doesn't want the child to get bigger and better, and they want to hold
Yes.
them back. I'm the elder, you do it my way. Yeah, but
Yes.
every time we do it your way, the house burns down. So you know, maybe we ought to get a sprinkler system in. It's like I'm suggesting. I'm only 12, but maybe a sprinkler system would be a good idea. Anyway,
I know
so
kids are so smart. Kids are wonderful. They're really smart. And
actually,
I also think that the smaller kids, they're closer to where we came from. I mean, I just think like I don't know, like they just get things and they see things and they hear things and they have we call them imaginary friends, but really they're probably seeing the other side is what's happening because are closer to it so they can recognize it. And then the adults go like, "That's nice, honey."
oh
Like
yeah, yeah. Mommy, Grandma's standing right beside you, and she's pointing her finger at you like this. Well, Grandma used to do that a lot when I was a little girl. I was kind of naughty, but you're not seeing that. That can't be.
right.
Well, why was Grandma waving her finger at you? Because he was admonishing Mommy about admonishing the grandchild. So it's kind of like a disconnect. But anyway, let's see if we're connecting here with people on the chat, or if
Mhm.
anybody's taken up our offer to email Mary a question at the soulreportlive@gmail.com. Oz, we got some questions for Mary.
Yeah, we got a few. First one is from Carrie9216 on YouTube. She asks, what do we need to do to have access to our own records?
Great question. Well, the first thing is a desire, right? And an intention to do that, to want to access that aspect, that divine aspect of ourselves, or that imprint, I should say. But what I find is really important, a couple of things. First of all, to have a connection or a belief in source itself, universe, God, creator, whatever that is for you, to really know that that exists. That's number one, and having that connection, because that is what you're accessing. So we need to believe it really exists. The other thing that's important is to be in a space, bring yourself in some way into a space of higher vibration. And what I mean by that is, like, some people meditate, that will work. And sometimes it could be a piece of music that someone's listening. When you listen to music and you just are not even present anymore, your vibration is raising, and the records exist in a higher vibratory state. So what will happen is, as you have an intention and you ask, show me my records, or I want to enter my records, then you can also use prayer for the highest good of you. I use a prayer known as the pathway prayer, which is what I learned when I studied the records. And the other thing too is to read everything about the Akashic records. I think that's really important. Like, familiarize yourself with the records. I did that, and there'll be one book that resonates with you, and just stick with that. And for me, it was Linda Howe's book, How to Read Your Akashic Records, and I read it, and it just she had me, well, has us opening the records in the book before you finish the book. And when I did what was suggested in the book, I was hearing, for me, blocks of thought that were not clearly not my own. And then you'll get used to that. In the beginning, I was thinking, is this me? Is it my imagination? Is it real? That's okay. That's kind of part of the territory. And then you just keep doing it. And then you'll hear more and more and more. And then you just write what you're hearing. You can bring questions. Bring your own. Come with a question. Come with a need for clarity. That's important. I've had people kind of say, I just want to open the records and see what happens. That's not the best use of the Akashic records. It's not. In fact, it probably won't work. It's when it's that point of wanting a clarity and answer, to know something more about yourself, that creates the opening, actually, and that intention, and then knowing that there is this divine source that is there to guide you to exactly what you need to hear. So
Good
that's,
question.
yeah.
That's a good question. Oz, we
Yeah.
have another question or something in the chat?
Yes, we do. It's a two-part question from YouTube. What inspired you to learn more about the records and then decide to utilize them? And what are the benefits?
So what I have to be honest, what first triggered it was, well, I already knew when I was in television, I was feeling like something was missing. I wasn't unhappy. I was in great jobs. It was great. I had fun. I love working with actors, but I just, like, in retrospect, there was something missing. So you kind of, you might, sometimes you can just feel that, and I did. But what happened was, I used to go to a particular psychic in Manhattan Beach, or Huntington Beach in California. And on this one time I was reading, she was doing a reading for me. She said, you have a dude over your shoulder. And I'm like, who is he? And she said, he's really, like, handsome. He looks like a genie. And he says that he's guarding your Akashic records. And so I asked her, like, well, what are those? And she said, I don't know what they are, but that's what he said. And so I went home and I looked them up. I mean, I believe when things come through readings like that, I pay attention. And so when I looked it up, it was not bells going off, but I went a little further with it, and then I found that book, and I also resisted it a little bit. I was like, oh, that's nice, right? But then I was in a bookstore, and Linda Howe's book was sticking off the shelf above me, and I didn't even know who she was. And it was literally brought my attention in a spiritual bookstore. So I pulled it down, and that's when I was like, okay, I got to pay attention. I was given signs. So that's it. I started, and it was so easy. I was hearing things, right? And I knew that they weren't coming from me. So I would write them down, but I kept them to myself. And then I started to share them because the wording and the beautiful messaging coming through was so amazing. So I shared them with my wife, Christine. And And sometimes she'd cry, and I'd say, maybe it's me, my imagination. And she'd say, you don't even speak this way. You're tapping into something here. So I paid attention. So what made me continue in the records was when I watched how people expanded, the beautiful things that were happening when I would open people's to this day. When I open people's records, it is so amazing how they leave the records, how they leave. They're more full. They know more about who they are. They're excited about their lives. They've reconnected with what they're passionate about, all because of the Akashic records. So that was it. I knew, you know, I just love bringing joy to people. So that's how.
Okay, we have time for one more, Oz, if there's a question.
Yep, we have one more. This one's about your career. You were with Another World. What happened to end this iconic soap?
Well, storyline wise, I'm not going to remember because what really happened was the network, it was NBC. I was on that show 11 years, and beautiful cast. It was really tough leaving that when that show ended. Really, really tough. It was like losing family for all of us. What happened was the networks were beginning to see that it was too expensive to produce soap operas, and less expensive to have talk shows on or reality shows like all the court shows that you see during the day. All of those are way less expensive. So it was money, and they blamed it on the ratings going down. But now like I can be honest about everything. It wasn't about the ratings. It was the actual storylines that the network was pushing was designed to drive the ratings down so that they can then just say it's not working, and they took it off. And they actually replaced it. If the person knows Another World, they replaced it with that show Passions, was it? Yeah, they replaced it with another soap, but it was all about money and very sad. So
Well, it's all in the Akashic records. Who did what, who done it, why they did
yeah,
it, and as such, there are consequences. So here we go. We're going to go to another commercial break, and we have the second segment of the show is this interstellar comet 3I Atlas. It's a visitor between the stars, as it's hailed, but also there is some credibility by astronomer Avi Loeb, who warns the world not to ignore this new comet. And I believe he's credited with also saying, this looks like it might be extraterrestrial, off-world communications. Oh my God. What do you think about this, my friends? Chime in the chat. What's your opinion? Is this a cosmic rover coming through, doing a little recon out there to find out where there's this planet with lots of gold? Apparently, the Akanagi need gold or something to survive. Is it going to be is it a scouting party to find out what's out here? Has Voyager run into some alien intelligence? I should say they wouldn't be alien; they're hometowners over there. Has it run into something, and they're out looking for us because we gave them that darn roadmap on the Voyager to come and visit us? What's your take on it, or is it just a phenomenon? Is it just something? Is it a spiritual phenomenon that's ushering in the changes that are about to take place? Let me know. This is your show. It's the Soul Report Live at gmail.com, or ask in the chat. We're going to take a short break. Mary, you can stick around if you like. It's been a pleasure to have you on. We'll be right back after the break.
Did you know that Dr. Douglas James Cottrell has several other weekly channels where you can participate? Check out his Sunday International Spiritual Healing Service on Zoom. And you might also enjoy the Wake Up Podcast, exploring human consciousness, awareness, and intuition with Dr. Douglas and co-host Les Hubert. Just go to douglasjamescottrell.com and select the link to the material of most interest to you.
Oh, welcome back, Mary. So, as in the previous segment, one more time, it's the akashicway.com.
Hmm.
And hold that book up again and let's everybody have another
You're my
eyeball.
little marketing partner,
There you go.
the Akashic Way.
Wonderful cover done by an artist. So excellent. So as we were saying, we've opened this up to the audience, and you can help me along with this, Mary, if you like. This visitor, I'm going to call it, is from outer space. Who knows how deep the space has been? But it's like an akashic record too. It's
Hmm.
out there, and it's, let's say, billions of years traveling around. Apparently, it's only going to come into our neck of the woods here once, and it's going to disappear. Astronomers have discovered this AI atlas, also known as C/2025 N1 atlas. It was first spotted on July the 1st in 2025 by the Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile. The asteroid terrestrial impact last alert system, that's what it was spotted by. This is the third confirmation of an object that's been passing through our solar system. The names are too long for me to mention them, but it's moving on a hyperbolic trajectory, which means it's not bound for our sun. Thank God, our sun's in enough trouble as far as I'm concerned. It comes from another star system entirely, and it glides through, slips through, and then it's gone. At least I'm reading this, never to be here again. So scientists estimate that this could be older than our own solar system. That means over 7 billion years old, formed in an extremely cold, distant region around another star. Now that's got to be guesswork. Those guys don't know that for sure. I
Hmm.
always like it when scientists make these things a billion years ago, not to put them down, but it's like, oh my God. So I want to know, we want to know, is it dangerous? Is it going to hit us? The answer is, according to the scientists, no. Its closest approach to Earth is expected around December 19, 2025, at roughly 1.8 astronomical units away, which translates to be about 167 million miles. So, relatively, it's at a safe distance. And somebody says it's more of a message than a menace. The Hubble telescope, the Webb telescopes, and others are watching it closely. But it sure has caught the attention of the world, Mary. And there's conspiracy theories, like this is the end of the world. It's Armageddon. It's a spiritual messenger drifting through our neighborhood, carrying the memory of another world. And just as you were talking about the Akashic records, it's got to be a field of memory holding every soul's journey through
Probably
it.
is.
Yeah,
Yes.
it has to have something like that in our physical world. A frozen archive, somebody writes, from a distant system, silently gliding through. At how many millions of miles an hour, I don't know, but what kind of energy are we sending out into space? If someone else's comet could wander into our sky, what might we be radiating out into theirs? What do you think, Mary? What do you think
Well,
kind of
I'm wondering if also you can, not you, but certain people could just tap into the essence of it. It has a name now, right? So it's identified. It's been identified, so it has an identifiable name. Oh, I got it, an identity. So yeah, it probably does have an Akashic record. I opened the records of the sun, which is in my book.
well,
So,
very good.
has anyone done that yet? Literally talk to this comet?
That is a good suggestion. What do you think, audience? Let us know. Come on, now's your chance right now. Uh, the Soul Report Live at gmail.com. Oz will step in here when you ask a question. So when you look up in the sky and you remember somewhere out there right now, there is a piece of another world passing by, quietly watching us as we decide what kind of civilization we're going to be? Or is this kind of a scouting sort of recon unit that's kind of looking for little places to take over, like us, warlike, inconsiderate,
Mhm.
ungrateful people on a wonderful, beautiful planet. Okay. There are a lot of good people out there, and I think this is the story about the good people, ye shall survive. So, what do you think? Oz, do we have any questions from our wonderful audience tonight? Maybe Oz has disappeared. There he comes.
Well, still here.
It's good
Uh,
to
yeah, just wondering, what are your thoughts on this asteroid, Douglas?
Well, I'm trying to get the audience to participate. This is a participatory show here. I think it's a major, major accomplishment from outer space. I think there's more behind this than what meets the eye. I don't think it's an invasion force, although I've had a vision of some ships coming through a gigantic Stargate. It looked like when you have a cigar, Mary, and you blow a smoke ring. That's
Yeah.
what I saw. And then through this came a line of ships. I've also seen some tragedy for the military in the US. There's going to be, unfortunately, a conflict that's going to take a lot of lives. It's going to be radioactive involved. And so I'm wondering, is it that this is a sign of our times to stop it, stop this nonsense, stop this provocation of confrontation. And I think this big cigar in the sky is kind of like, you know, showing us, stop it. We need something to stop us in our tracks. So my impression is that I haven't seen anything in particular other than this vision I had a year ago, which I've announced on different shows, coast to coast or whatever I was on, and my own shows here at the Global Village and the Wake Up podcast, and tonight on this the Soul Report Live. So what I'm seeing is this is like the Star of Bethlehem.
Mm.
It's in the sky. I don't know if we're going to be visited by beings or by spiritual entities that are going to come and try to put a stop on this world. I've announced before, 50 years from now, the world is not going to be like it is today. I went 50 years in the future and then 5 more. The world was greatly changed, and the people in that time, as they saw myself and my friends walking along on a very dirt road kind of thing, they said, see that mountain over there, that hill? It's got all kinds of symbols in it. They were like traffic signs, words that the people couldn't understand. And they were asking me, what happened? In
Oh,
2024, what happened?
no.
It made the world like this. So those three occurrences I'm blending together, it just sort of off the cuff, that this thing tumbling through our world. I see it tumbling. It's not like in a trajectory straight, it's tumbling. And I think it has something to do as a messenger, but maybe it's a celestial messenger. Maybe it's a wake up call like the Star of Bethlehem, which means somebody's already here, being born right now, or has been born, that may be that savior to get us out of the mix, to get us out of this turmoil that we're in. So that's my off the cuff impressions just now. But I haven't seen anybody wearing, helmets and swords and lasers and Star Wars and, stuff like that. Make sense?
Do you think that, Douglas, do you think that uh, the ETs and possibly the Pleiadians and other, maybe even the Arcturians, especially the Arcturians, have already been thwarting attempts to destroy the planet by humans?
Well, my take on that is, and I come from a pretty level headed background in which extraterrestrials and off-world beings, I would prefer to call them,
Hmm.
it's not logical for anybody to think that we're the only ones in the universe.
Right.
And more, as we reach out with the telescopes that we have, which are amazing, reaching out into like the scene behind me, being able to see what's out there. I mean, if somebody was out there, say on that star right over there, we wouldn't even be visible. never
Right.
mind, never mind important. So I think off-world people, beings, and if we look back, the different gods in the various religion, the the
Mythology.
Olympians in Greek history, the Egyptian gods, the different every society, every religion always had certain gods. They had angels, and then they had demons too, just like the Christians. We have saints, we have sinners, we have
Hmm.
archangels, then we have some dark angels. So every spiritual consciousness, I'm going to say religions, that's just a matter of how you believe your spirituality, in my opinion. They've all had these beings. So what if, like back in the day, Akanagi and the others, uh, I'm not a super what would be super into it. I just kind of acknowledge that's a possibility. So, to answer your question directly, is that I believe that they're out there. My visions about seeing this Stargate of these vehicles coming through, my first thought was, what is the army going to do about this?
Hmm.
And then my next thought was, nothing.
Nothing.
They can't do it with what coming through this Stargate was like one aircraft carrier after another, like a train linked behind one another. They come through very slowly. And so, from my researches, I've seen that there are stargates where they see the ships going through, or the vehicles in the sky, the whatever they're calling them now, the above phenomena. So I'm sure they've been here. I'm sure they could do something about it. And recently, there's been some chatter about somewhere near South Pole in the Antarctic that there's something under the water,
Yes.
like a base.
Yes.
So I'm a reasonable man, and uh, to be reasonable and logical is to say, well, from all the different bits of information, if you take away everything that doesn't seem logical, that seems illogical is possible. And so here we are. So I've seen them. I had a visit in my dream. I wasn't like, you know, escorted off to a ship and whatever, but I did have I saw something very plain, and the woman was she had different teeth, and I knew that was an off-world person who
Wow.
came here. Maybe they're going to come and say, "Listen, you Earthlings, you can't really
Stop it.
fly. What's the
Right.
matter with you? Okay, we're coming here. We're in town now. We're gonna be the big boss."
Hmm.
Maybe they've done it before. So, in a humorous way, I'm
Maybe.
leaning towards the possibility that the off-world beings, intelligence that are out there, that this our physical world has been destroyed 5 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Casey put it forward. Other people have put it forward. And if we go back, we see those great big stone buildings, temples, pyramids all over the world about the same time. It's like, how did they build them in the first place? And why did they build them? And why are they so much alike? And then, of course, what happened to make all the people disappear?
Hmm.
So there are scientists, or not scientists, there are people putting forward ideas in a scientific way that these were power generating devices and something happened and we blew the planet up. Possible. So the idea is that getting back to the point is that if the world's been destroyed 5 times, maybe we're on the threshold of number 6, and as such, maybe just maybe, Voyager has carried that message out there. It's been a 911 call, not a 411 call.
911.
411 for people who don't know, before cell phones, that was information. You could call that up and ask. So
It's true.
so here we go. So anyway, anyone, Oz, do we have another question, or move on to section the third segment? Oz,
Go right ahead. Move on to
another
next.
question?
No more questions.
Okay, so do you have that ad where there's some other books that you wanted to promote that we could see just before the next segment? We'll be right back, everyone, after a short break.
Are Are you searching for clarity, guidance, and peace of mind? For nearly 50 years, Douglas James Cottrell has used his intuitive abilities to help people from all walks of life overcome challenges and make informed choices. During his clairvoyant consultations, Douglas helps you uncover the root causes of life's challenges, whether in relationships, health, or finances. He offers insights into your future and practical guidance to empower your decisions today. Available by phone, Skype, Zoom, or FaceTime, Douglas's consultations fit your schedule and lifestyle. Heal, evolve, be the person you were born to be. Book your clairvoyant consultation today with Dr. Douglas James Cottrell.
Hi, everybody. That was an old commercial. So thanks, Oz, for putting that up. It's wonderful, but I am retiring. So, Mary, this is the last part of the segment, and it's sort of the message for people watching the show. People ask me to give some teachings on some spiritual advancement. So, feel free to comment on it when we finish it off. It's called the Good Samaritan and being our brother's keeper.
Nice.
I want to close the show tonight with this teaching portion with a story many of you know from childhood. It's more relevant now than ever. And the story we call the Good Samaritan. In the Gospel of Luke, a lawyer asked Jesus, and you always have to be careful when lawyers ask you questions, who is my neighbor? The question, that's a question of our age, isn't it? Who am I responsible for? Who am I to be a good Samaritan, or how can I be my brother's keeper? Whom do I have to be this as a practical spiritual being? And where does my obligation end? Good question. This is what Christ said, or Yeshua, as we call him now. He answered not with a definition, but with a story. Stories are always better than questions being answered because they give a picture, and one can dwell on it. So the story starts, there was a man from Jerusalem who was going to Jericho. And like any poor person, he was attacked, robbed, he was beaten up. And at that time, things were pretty serious, so he was left half dead at the side of the road. Well, as the story goes, a holy man came by, a priest. He sees him, and he passes by on the other side of the road. He doesn't want to get involved. A Levite, another religious man, does the same thing. Then a Samaritan comes along. Now, we should understand that a Samaritan is an outsider. It's the one considered unclean, the person everyone looks down on. Yet, it is he who stops, tends the wounds of this poor man, lifts the man up onto his own animal, and goes to a place where he can put him up for the night and pays for his lodging. And then he promises the innkeeper that he'll return to finish paying for the care. At the end of the story, Jesus asked, which of these was a neighbor to the man who fell among thieves? The answer is simple, the one who showed mercy. And the instruction is simple too. As he said, go and do likewise. Now that little phrase, go and do likewise, is the spiritual assignment of our time. We live in an age of chaos, wars, division, online cruelty, angry politics, spiritual confusion. Yet the path forward is the same as it was 2,000 years ago. See the one who's hurting and do something about it. Metaphysically, the story is not just about one man in a ditch. It's about the way karma works. Every thought, word, and deed is a seed. What we plant in the field of life comes back to us. There's always consequences in this life, and sometimes these consequences stay over to other lifetimes. So when you choose to be a good Samaritan, to stop, to show kindness, to give your time, your money, your attention, you're not just helping that person. This is the point. You're shaping your own future timeline. You're writing a new chapter in your Akashic record. You are saying to the universe by your actions or your service, I am available for compassion. I am willing to be my brother or sister's keeper. I will stand in the gap while others walk by. That vibration does not disappear. It returns and it multiplies. So get the drift, my friends. The actions you're taking to help others are exactly the actions that are going to come to you. So on the other hand, when we pass by, when we say, not my problem, they should have made a better choice, someone else should help, what you're doing is closing the door on your own spirit. We train our soul to be smaller than it was meant to be. So being a Good Samaritan does not always mean dramatic heroics. It can be listening to someone who's lonely instead of brushing them off. Giving a small amount that you can give instead of focusing on what you can't give. Refusing to spread gossip on the internet, on chat groups. Don't do that. If you don't know something yourself personally, don't spread the gossip about someone who's already wounded by the original gossip. Stay saying a genuine prayer for those who you see suffering in the news. Prayer has power. When you're saying a prayer, you're putting out into the universe vibrations of force of nature that you do not know how powerful it is. It's amazing, and yet it's so simple. So when you say a prayer, and then you ask, is there anything or something I can do? And something will come in front of you. That person will put their hand out. If anybody comes directly to you, you're obligated as a spiritual person practicing your spirituality in a practical way to give them something. Now, whether you give them $1 or $10, that's up to you, but I'll bet you if you give them $20 at $10 and you see tears coming down their face, you're going to be moved. Spiritually, we're all the same. We're all each other's keepers. Not in a controlling way, but in a caring way. Your neighbor is not just a person who looks like you, votes like you, or believes like you. Your neighbor is whoever life puts in your path, especially when they are broken and bleeding in body and in spirit. In the language of karma, when you lift another, you rise also. When you heal another, a part of you is healed. We all have inner pain. When you forgive another, chains fall off your body, your soul. The energy you extend returns. Remember that. Maybe not from that person you helped, but from somewhere, somehow, somewhere in the universe, because the universe is wired for balance, and what you have given out creates a void, and it has to come back and fill the void. You benefit. I can promise you this. The Good Samaritan story in modern times, it's a spiritual technology. It's a template. See clearly. Notice the suffering, don't look away. Feel compassion. Let your heart be moved. Take action. Do something tangible within your capacity. Release expectation. Don't demand recognition or repayment. The universe will pay you back. in ways you can't imagine how beneficial it is. But first, you have to do something. You can't go to the fireplace and say, give me heat and then I'll give you wood. Doesn't work that way. You have to put in the effort and then you get the reward. So my friends, if you live in this way, the secret is you align with what the mystics call higher law. You move from what can I get to what can I give? And paradoxically, that's when blessings begin to flow back. Coincidence, parking spots when you need them, going to the head of the line, getting that last item that's on sale, somebody congratulating you, letting you go ahead, opening that door for you, or maybe even a check comes through the mail. Somebody give you a gift because they love you. Benefits, little and large, will come. So, is it a family member, a coworker, a stranger you keep seeing? Or perhaps it's a part of yourself you've abandoned. You're recognizing it. Your soul already knows where you are being asked, when you are being asked to be a Good Samaritan. Follow that gentle nudge. Remember, God always talks in a whisper. Is that the voice of wisdom or virtue or God in you? And remember, as we close the show tonight, every act of kindness is a vote for a kind of world we want to live in and a kind of person we are becoming. If this is touching you, email me at thesoulreportlive@gmail.com and tell me how you've been feeling about the Good Samaritan. Perhaps you have a comment. We have a few minutes left in the show. Or where you're struggling to be one. Let us know. Mary and I are here for a few more minutes, and we'd love to hear from you, my friends. Each week we'll come by with a spiritual lesson at the end of the show. We hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. So we'll ask Oz one last time if there's any comments. And I will personally ask you, my friends, to support the show by subscribing and passing this on to your friends, because we're here with wonderful, amazing guests like Mary, and who's written this amazing book called The Akashic Way. And we're here to be of service to you because we want to be rich. Yes, we want to be rich in love and in the spirit and in a being of service. Because you see, service is the money you pay on the rent to pay your place in heaven. So we want to make sure we have a comfortable place. I'm smiling, everybody. We want to help you best we can, and we're going to bring the top talent in North America and around the world to enlighten us all. So, Oz, do we have any last questions?
We did get a comment on YouTube from Raul Lewis 37332. Says very well said.
Thank you. Muchas gracias, amigo.
That's putting it lightly. That message, Douglas, needs to be heard by, I'm going to speak for everybody in the United States right now needs to hear that message. Thank you.
To all the Good Samaritans out there who are there right now, and there are many, when you see cruelty and injustice, don't pass it by. Yeah. Stand up to it, watch it. Do whatever you can to help those people who are bleeding physically and spiritually. Do something about it. America needs you. America is wandering, it's meandering along a path of darkness, and there's enough to stop that pale horseman that's predicted to be the precursor to the terrible destruction of the world. We have to stop the pale rider. Now's the time. We have chances. We can do it now. So you're right, Mary. We send out the message to everybody worldwide. And
Good.
to all those people who are listening tonight, my special thanks again to our guest, Mary Madeiras,
Thank
for
you.
sharing the Akashic Way with us and for spending this wonderful time together tonight, both here and in spirit.
Thank you, Douglas.
We've
A
written
lot.
some Akashic words up there. We've scribbled some messages on the wall somewhere, I'm sure. You know, some good ones.
Imprints. Hmm.
Some spiritual graffiti up there, no way. That's what I can see on my mind. So, okay, my friends, remember we are living in a universe of records and returns, and what we think, what we say, and what we do, it all matters. Be the Good Samaritan in someone's story this week. If you have questions or stories to share and you want to send them to the soulreportlive@gmail.com for next week, you are welcome. We may read them out on the future show. So don't forget to subscribe and share this episode to others who can join in our global village. Until next time, on behalf of Mary and Jack Balick, who produced the show, and other people who have been behind the scenes, we want to tell you stay awake, stay kind, stay connected to the soul within.
Yep.
Good night, my friends. Peace and prosperity. May peace be with you. Good night.
Good night.